then if somebody comes, it's fine. Yeah.
Oh,
So you can get started. Everybody can just hit continue.
all right.
Got it.
So I'm just going to take you just for a few seconds into the blog, just to show you a graphic. I'm just doing it for selfish reason, so I can practice at the same time. Yeah? Because I'm just learning how to use the computer now. So I'm going.
Yeah, good job, Christy.
Beautiful. Let me see my glasses, and here we are. Okay. Got it? I said it, got it?
Yeah.
You got it. And now I'm going to go into share the screen.
Yeah.
You can see me or not that I'm doing this?
Not yet, almost. And then you're going to share again.
Now share again, and here we are. Share the screen. Okay, so I'm just going to take you for a few seconds into. This is a good size, no? I don't have to enlarge it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So I wanted just to be for a few seconds in this. We have gone through a long time, and I wanted to make sure that we all know, and I know that all of you already know for sure, that the metric, the tree of life is the center of the metrics of balance, right? When I say that, it's clear that let me see. Get into here, that if you were to go in here and you go forward in the same distance that you have between right and the left, and you go forward, that will be the front, and then if you go back in the same distance, that will be the back. And so that is the same occurring in all of them, in those three triads, right? That center is the center. But if I were to bring the distance that you have between right and left, and it will become equal in relation to front and back, which you don't see it here, it will be another form of saying the right and the left is equal in the front and the back, but we don't see it here because we see it in the metrics when it's diagonal. You can see it's the same distance in the front and the same distances in the back. Yeah, are you with me with this? Yeah. Can I continue with it? Yeah. No questions about it. Now, then you know that this circle right here that interconnect with this other circle and interconnect with this other circle, which is the width of the right and the left and the hips, the right and the left and the shoulders, and the right and the left and the head, is the actual natural proportions of the skeleton. I lost the connection.
But just click again. Just click again there. Oh. Okay, you clicked out of it, but that's okay. You stop the share. Christian. You stop the share, so you have to go back into the share. You're going to go back down.
Screen sharing has stopped because the external display is disconnected. Should I just click it?
I don't, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
So I have to go back into the stop the share. Yeah, right here. And now go back share one more time. I'm sorry about the delay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but it was just oh my God, I got it into the, okay, I'm going to go to the third triad.
You're going to share again. There you go.
I am here.
Good. Okay.
And now I am back into.
You're going to use 2 fingers. You're going to just stay within. Nope. You're going to, yeah, there you go. Okay. Great. And then if you click into that, you make it large.
What I wanted to tell you that you know, and you understand that this is sphere. I'm sorry. My God, this is like I touch it and changes everything. Okay. Here we are. Okay. This is sphere. You do know that the 3 spheres represents the interchanging between the 3 spheres of the 3 senses of the self. Okay, this is sphere, this other second sphere, and the other third sphere is actually the distance that occur between the segments of the skeleton. Yeah, another form of saying the distance that exists between the segments of the skeleton. the natural proportions of the existence of the skeleton.
Mhm.
Another form of saying, the distance between the interchanging connection between this sphere and the other sphere creates the distance between the head and the shoulders and the natural elongation of the neck.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So then the distance that exists between the second and the third sphere, and I don't know why I keep doing that. Come back. Okay.
So it's just, you don't have to go back. You don't have to go back. Just click one more time right there.
Oh, thank you very much.
There you go. Okay.
The second sphere, the distance, the connection between the second and the third sphere represents the exact distance between the shoulders and the pelvis. So they are the natural proportions of the skeleton. Another form of saying, the free spheres that interconnects the cross of gravity, the cross of space right here, the cross of energy, and the cross of form, is actually the natural reality of the relationship of the skeleton itself as it was created as the design called human. Yeah. So the reason that I want you to understand that those spheres are not just to put there because they look nice or anything, but that they are the natural proportions that exist between the head and the shoulders, releasing the neck, and the natural proportions that exist between the shoulders and the head, expressing the natural elongation of the spine. I don't know what's keeping that doing that.
Well, what it does is if you click on it, it will make it larger. If you click on it, it'll make it smaller.
No,
It
I
has
think
an X and an O there.
Yeah, but when it happens, I can touch it again. So I would be clear this. That's what I wanted to make clear, that we understand that in this line here within the tree of life, which is the center of the metrics of balance, it's called the sagittal plane or coronal plane. So this is the plane that unites the front and the back, right here. Those two planes, right here and right here. Those are the planes which unites not only the right and the left, but also the front and the back. Yeah, are we more or less good with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're clear, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Then, if I were to have a fourth sphere here, that it will go uniting from here all the way around to the pelvis, which will be the same size of all the other spheres, you will have the sphere of self right here, which is the center of life.
Mm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are the same size. They are exactly the same size because it represents the natural proportions that exist between the segments of the skeleton. We were created as a geometrical natural proportions. Every single being, no matter what it looked like, in some degree, concealed within itself, naturally at the core, the natural proportions of the skeletal system. Some people are a little bit more, larger, or smaller, or whatever it is, but the proportions are always the same. And it represents the natural relationship between the first and second and the third sphere, which have to do with mind, which has to do with energy, which have to do with form. So good, we're good then?
Mm-hmm.
It's good thing? Wonderful. So no, it's all clear about that now, because I don't know if you really knew that those spheres represents the natural distance between the head and shoulders and between the shoulders and hip, expressing the distance that exists in the natural elongation of the spine, right? The spine, yeah.
This is not quite about that, but it's sort of related. What you talk about the center of the sphere, is that in the spine or more centered in the?
It's not. Okay. It's not in the spine. It's okay. In the center of right and left and the hip.
Okay.
Right and left and the chest, which is this is the center that we're talking about, that we're always opening, always moving from, and this is the center of the head. So the only complexity that exists in this particular symbol is that it is let me see how it's an invisible direct system of forces that come as a direct consequence of the sphere of life. The sphere of life is what centers the body in relation to the Earth, that the sphere of life, with the sphere of life inside of gravity, as a field of gravity, centers the body and the center in relation to the planet Earth. The sphere of life in relation to expansion expands the body in all directions of space, and then the center of this, the actual center of the sphere, the third center of the sphere, becomes the moment of life. So you have three forces that are always existing. It's called the natural phenomenon: gravity, expansion, and the natural moment of life. And that this sphere expresses the center of space. This is the center of space, which is the unity between the center of gravitational connection, the center of gravitational expansion, and the center that represents the actual moment of life. So there are three things that they are simultaneously, and they're called three dimensions, which is the way that we as humans were developed, created, and exist. We live in the realms of three dimensions. That's it. So the entire nature of our consciousness was created inside of the realms of three dimensions. Are we good with this, more or less? So I want you to eventually spend time with it to see if there's any questions for you, because the tree of life is a perfect map of not only of the consciousness of the human self, but of the energetic relationship, which is the directions of the metrics, all the metrics, and also the physiological relationship of centering between all the segments of the skeleton. So it is the relationship of the whole body, the skeleton, which is the base from which then the fascia, the ligaments, the muscle, the organs, and the whole design called human exists. At the core, the whole design of human is in the skeleton itself. Is the crystallization. The skeleton is the crystallization of DNA that have taken an enormous amount of time, if you look at it from the perspective of evolution, or from Genesis. It was created inside of a system that interconnected all remembrances of form. All remembers that always existed in form is in the skeletal formation. Then the muscle formation represents the emotional content of that remembrance. Wow. And then the spatial context represents the entire expression of consciousness. And the human self, if it is tiny and simple, it's okay. But as it expands in the cosmic, it represents the cosmic nature of our being. The tree of life is the cosmic nature of our being. And it passes the most simple aspect, like our daily dorky little reality here on the planet Earth, if you want to put it that way in simplicity, or encompasses the larger, which is our natural consciousness that now is interconnected as the new consciousness with the whole field of what the self and the human represent. We are the cosmic human, even then. But we were always cosmic, but in the evolutionary nature, for a long time, we have been in a very simple state because we were only grounded in the reality called human. Mm-hmm. Now we are always grounded in the reality. We are again grounded in the reality, of course, of reality of human, but also now interconnected with the reality called cosmic. And cosmic, it doesn't mean la la land. It means in natural expressions of the expansion of the consciousness that understand the nature of its energy and understand the nature of its form. And now, as a three-dimensional understanding of consciousness, live in the planet Earth as the new natural expression of human.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good. We are wow. Good about that. Yeah. So
I was just thinking also then our organs would be God kind of thing. I mean, our organs keeping us alive or whatever.
Well, I think that in the past, he has said that organs represent constellations of cosmic stars. So in the totality of our natural macrocosmic expression of the microcosmic with the body, the macrocosm is that each of the organs lungs, each of the design that exists within our body, as I said, are constellations of a star that corresponds to the universe.
Mm.
That, that sounds like a lot, but I'm sure that that's what it is, because told us from the beginning of time that we were microcosmic replicas of a macrocosmic reality. So that's what it means. And then as we become more and more connected in the balance and the unity of the movement and the understanding of consciousness, our organs, as we begin to function inside of the simultaneity of creation, can really live more and more in the present moment, and therefore partake of the simultaneous nature that exists in quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement. Remember quantum entanglement? This is the reality that everything is simultaneous in the universe. So the same with our organs. Our organs begins to partake of that synchronicity, and therefore will become more healthy, more conscious, more sensorially connected, more physically in ecstasy, because the reality of unity of that particular unity in motion of the universal existence is the natural existence of ecstasy, because it is a feel of wholeness within wholeness, always centralized within the moment of life, because it's a moment of physical existence, but it's always existing within a field that comprehends, is, and feels everything. That's a lot for us to human, because we have been only, as I said, but we are getting more acquainted and accustomed to that reality. So we are beginning to allow the mind to be able, which is the new mind, to allow us the mind to give us okay, to open the field. It's like a computer. Just allow that field to become more and more present, and then we'll do it. Okay. So are we good? Are we good?
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So far, so good. So we can let it go now, because I need to go, because it's already 20 minutes in it. But so we can let it go for now. Now, just one last piece. Remember that all this free connection, ground consciousness and unity, represents to central crown, represents to heaven, and represents to infinity. Yeah. Remember the second one right here represents to expansion, to sun, and moving heart. Right here, right? The third one represents to, right here, represents to earth, represents to crown, and represents to foundation. Yeah, and then the fourth triad, the fourth dimension, represents to moon, represents to horizon, and represents to moving heart. No, suspend the diamond, right? Suspend the diamond, which is the release of the throat. Yeah. And then the fourth, the last one, the self, which is the fulfillment of the three senses of self, represents to self, which is the center of space, represents to central heart, which is the center of the whole center of the tree of life. Central heart, right here, right? Yeah, that's it.
And delicate heart.
The center of life, yeah, the center of life, the central heart,
and delicate heart.
No, and then the delicate heart is right here, which will be like
Just below, yeah.
Right here for it. Right, this will be the delicate heart, and the delicate heart, as a connection of self, represents the merging of heaven and earth, if you put it that way, because it is the moment in which, in the movements, we go from foundation, which is this dimension, and it begins to ascend to all the other dimensions that correspond to the whole system of the three senses of self. Yeah, this is the moment in which the arms changes directions from facing or connecting to the lower centers, the three lower centers, into going into the three upper centers. From here, it will be the point in which you start connecting. Exactly, you start connecting to infinity's gate. From here, you will start ascending as the wave. From here, the wave will become here, the connection to suspended diamond, which is in here. And then the wave, as they're ascending from foundation, connecting you all the way up, there will be a moment that connects through the throat, and it becomes central crown. which is that one,
Mhm.
central. Yeah, beautiful. And now, now in horizon, this is horizon right here. The connection of horizon is extraordinarily important because in your connection, when you practice the connection, that is the first instant, apart from the definition of 0 point, in which you have access to the entire tree of life.
Mm.
Because in that is the instant that the arms will be like in this point, the connection, going up forward, right here, and the center of the hip joint, the shoulder joint, right here. That will be the arm going forward in the horizontal plane, centralizing in your consciousness all the whole tree. And it's the definition of 0 point as it corresponds to the natural connection to horizon. Horizon being right here, yeah? Sun, or expansion, moon, suspended diamond, horizon. As I said, those 5 connections are really actually the existence of the natural horizontal plane as it represents to your definition of 0 point. Yeah. And then from here, as you know, you go up into heaven, then it goes into the other arc. And from here, if it goes down, down, it represents going into the connections of earth, crown, or foundation. Yeah. And this will be itself becomes also another definition of 0 point. Yeah. Another definition of horizon as the self. Yes, it's a complete definition. It's the perfect definition of horizon because it is the center space. Yeah. And in the center of the space is what suspend those 3 crosses: the cross of space, yeah, the cross of energy, and the cross of form. Yeah. So then this one it's a more subtle. The center of yourself is completely subtle because it is actually your connection to the fountain of life. So you cannot feel it. You are in it. You can feel those 3. You can feel those 3 connections because they are structural relationships of your being. This one is very difficult to feel because you are this thing. In the center of self then becomes your connection to the fountain of life. That comes as a consequence of you interconnecting with all this as the center of the sphere of life. Yeah. The center of the sphere of life, it's important to understand there is a physical phenomenon that exists all day, always for you. It's always existed. Only thing that we have to know is that it exists and how to use it, because it allows them to utilize gravity expansion as the movement to give us the center of our being from which we sense ourselves as a spatial infinite presence instead as a compressed physical form. Spatial infinite presence, yeah, because the fountain of life is a spatial infinite presence. It's not divided into structure. It's the moment of creation. Everything goes. It's infinite. That's the reason it's eternal, because it exists inside of its own self, inside of its own self regenerated system. The fountain of life is a self-regenerated system that gives and receives itself as love. Okay. So anyway, I went too long for this part already, but we leave it now. But it's good. It was okay for me to go through this thing a little bit.
Thank you.
Because you understand the 3 spheres, right? You understand the sphere that is not here, but exists as the connection of here. And then you also understand that self, or the delicate heart, is actually what allows us to make the transposition between physical reality into the higher centers. And the reason is because of the elbows. If the elbows do not connect through the motion moving through the heart, if we just pushing the spine back up, or you just grabbing the skeleton instead of inducing movement through the invisible natural relationship of forces that exists in the matrix of balance and exists in the centralization of the matrix of balance that is the tree of life. The tree of life is a divine design. It exists within the consciousness, as you know from the beginning, right? And now we are understanding completely what it means. It's nothing other than it's a map of the human being, which is each of us, as it experienced the totality or the natural connection to the totality of the consciousness that is a universal existence, but it's also the natural state of our human self, recovering the context of our being, which is the whole mind, the context of our emotional sense, which is the understanding of love, in experiencing of love as a reality, and the context of the physical form, which is the structural formation from which we experience the energy that we call life. Okay, and I let it go now. Okay, so now I'm going to get out of here.
Go up, go up, go up to stop
wonderful.
share.
Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you very much.
All right.
Stop share, and here we are together. So
Sure.
now we work a motion for a little bit. Are we okay? So far, so good? No
Yay.
questions? You can watch it and see it, and then if any questions arise, because it's important for your mind to understand. The mind needs to comprehend your nature, because your mind is your nature. Yeah. If you don't comprehend your nature, it does exist, and you are. But if you don't comprehend it, you don't give it justice of it, because the nature is pure intelligence. Okay. So now, what I would like to do for us, I'm going to go back for a moment. I would like to work with us a little bit into the. Let's start with the fountain a little bit let's go together from the 19 connections, and then we do the fountain, and then we're going to practice a little bit around the crown and above the crown, and we practice the 3 releases, and then we do it standing, and then maybe I can get you a little bit on the floor, but maybe not today, but I will show you what I want you to practice on the floor. Okay, so let's get into it. I love it. Get out of here. Now we are connected into the beautiful. Lovely. Let me see. Lovely. Okay. So actually the center of my head, the center of my arms, and the center of my pelvis are 3 spheres, but they are infinite, but they are self-contained in my analogy, because if I don't self-contain it, I cannot understand anything. Yeah. The beautiful thing about a physical reality is that the self-containment of your consciousness, so you can understand infinity. If you don't have self-containment, infinity is meaningless. It doesn't have any reality. Okay, so are we good? So now what I would like to do is very gently, we're going to go to the inflowing way, and we're going to go very gently. I'll show you. We're going to go to central crown, we're going to go to heaven, and you're going to go to infinity. And then we're going to go together into moon, we're going to go to horizon, and we're going to go to suspended diamond. And then we're going to open to sun, and we're going to go to horizon, to expansion, and we're going to go to the delicate heart. And then we're going to go to self, and we're going to go to central crown, central heart, and then we go to delicate heart, and then we're going to go to earth, and we're going to go to crown, and then we're going to go to foundation, and then we're going to go to the release of foundation, and then we're going to go to expansion and the release of heaven. Shall we do that? It's like a new movement, but it's good in the beginning because your mind comprehends all 18 connections. Okay, so we're going to go from here very gently, and then inflowing wave, suspended balance, descending, ascending, and I'm going to ascend through center, and I go very gently to central crown, into heaven, and infinity. And now I'm going to go around, and I'm going to go to moon, horizon, and suspended diamond. And then open the sphere, and we're going to go to sun, expansion, and then get hard. And then we're we're going to go to self, and we're going to go to central heart, and then we're going to go to the delicate heart. Then we're going to go to earth, and we're going to go to crown, and then we're going to go to expansion. And let's complete the motion in the grounding state. Let's do it again. You know that a little bit. We never done it this, but it's good because it's informal, because as I said to you, you can't define them completely because you can only get to heaven from expansion, for example, but trying to define them from the center, but you can do very, very gently, get to the sphere, to the arcs, into the diamonds, just as an informal and formal connection, a little bit. And yeah, can we do it again? It's okay? Beautiful. So then we're going to start very gently, 0.5, 6, 7, and 8, and we're encircling, and then descending assembly. Now we'll raise to the center. We go up, central crown, and then an infinity. And then around to horizon and suspended time. And then we'll open it into sun, expansion, and now around your heart, to the delicate heart, right there. And now to self, and now to central heart, and now around you to the delicate heart. And now we continue the circle around down. You get to earth, and you get to ground, and then you get to foundation. And then back to foundation. And then from here, we can do the release of foundation. Just go ascending from center to the heart, the second spiral, very gently. And then the third spiral, arriving to suspended balance. The fourth spiral bring you to foundation. And foundation becomes the radius of the circle that it takes you into beautiful. And then if we go to the second one, inflowing wave, it came to foundation, and we are open to the earth, right in the way, we get to foundation, and now we do the spiral. Suspended heart, the second spiral, very gently now, because through my feet I have to arrive to touching balance. And now returning to the spiral to foundation, and now the whole radius of the circle taking me back to expansion. And now I completed that one. That's beautiful right there. And now I'm going to go to the third one. Just very, very gently. Foundation, unfolding to earth, right in the way, encircling the heart. All the way up. And now I'm going into the release of the diagonal, suspending the heart, complete, continuous with the spiral. And now the third spiral take me all the way around there. Now swinging the spirals, encircling the spiral, taking me back to foundation, completely into heaven, one last time, and then releasing the whole movement that is going to go directly to the 0 point balance, right there, the place that I started, the 0 point balance, the connection from which you started at the beginning, which is all the placements that we did today in the tree of life, and all the places that you're refining constantly to be more and more naturally connected to 0 point balance, which is the tree of life, the center of the tree of life, the center of the space, the center of form. Beautiful. How was that? That was good? Just release for a moment, just let the energy be for a moment, and let yourself just for a moment relax. How was that? Can we do that movement one more time the way we did it? It's okay? Going through all the 18 connections, and then the release of foundation, the release of expansion, the release of heaven. It will be all right? I'm asking you, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
No,
okay.
not this
Yeah, I
specific.
mean, I get a little lost, but it's okay. I'm learning it now.
You're
You know,
learning.
I think, Christy, that this is up on the, our site. I'll check it to make sure, but we did a, video of this and,
Yeah,
check it to make sure and send you an email telling you exactly where you can find it.
Okay, great.
but this is a very good thing to when you start teaching somebody the movements, the connections, because the connection when you start learning through the path of balance becomes a little bit more complex because you're learning the path and the connections and so forth. But once you start teaching, simplistically speaking, all the 18 connections and the releases, people can really, I think it would be very helpful to teach it that way as well. Yeah, so that's the reason I would like to do it one more time and then we go from there. Are you good with me?
Yeah.
You remember that in 0-point balance, you can go facing up or going down. Facing up, remember what we said about the skeletal center. So 5, 7, and 8. The inflowing wave will take me to foundation. And now I'm raising the energy very softly to central crown, to heaven and infinity. And then I'm going around to go to moon. Moon. I extending the arc into horizon, which is the tree of life. And then I'm going into, excuse me, from the tree of the horizon, I bring in myself back into suspended time. Yeah. Then I created a little circle to go back into, excuse me, I apologize. From the suspended diamond, I open the energy to go to the sun, to expansion, and to moving heart. From moving heart, I open to self. I come back into central heart. I create a little spiral to take me to the delicate heart. I continue with the circle that it takes me to earth. Continue with the arc that it takes me to crown. And it completes itself into foundation right here. Now from foundation, I'm going to create a release of foundation. So I raise in the energy. I connect into this second spiral, and it will bring me very gently into the third spiral. Suspend the balance. It will bring me back the spiral to foundation, and it will get me the higher offerings of ground. Now I ascend in very gently. I come back into suspended balance, suspended wave, ascending. And now I connect into earth. I connect into expansion. And I enter the spiral that releases expansion and takes me into the second and third spiral. Then it's going to be touching balance right here. I come back into the spiral. Then it takes me to foundation. And as I release in the spine, through the spiral, it will take me into expansion. I'm releasing very gently from the release of expansion into crown. I come back into suspended wave, descending, ascending. Now I'm folding the heart into earth. I connect it into expansion. I encircle the heart. I connect to the entire arc. I connect into the diagonals. I continue with the spiral. I start the second spiral. And now the third spiral is the natural elongation of everything. Yeah, right there. The swinging of the spiral will take me to it. And circling the spiral will take me to foundation. Foundation will unfold me completely into heaven and continue opening unto the level of infinity. I'm opening into the level of expansion. I'm opening into the level of crown. I encircling the earth, inflowing wave into foundation, and then I crown myself into 0 point. And here, that's beautiful. How about very, very gently bring yourself diagonal back a little bit, and then bring yourself back a little bit in the back of the chair. Let's sit down for a few seconds and just rest for a few moments. Align everything into the reclining for an instant. And wonderful. Are you good? Lovely. How was that? I think it's a very good thing, right? Because you remember all the connections. We did all the 18 connections in the free, we did the 15 connections that correspond to all the 5 triads: free, 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 and free. 15. We did the 3 releases with the 16, 17, 18, and then we complete the whole movement into 0-point balance, which is actually the 19, which is our definition of 0 point. So far, so good. Yeah. Did you get into pain by doing it? Are you okay? No pain, no? You're soft in it?
Yeah, I think the only one that I'm learning a little bit more is that when we go from heaven into infinity and then coming around, I have to allow my shoulders to rotate all the way around to get me into heaven and into moon.
Yeah, from infinity, right?
Infinity, yeah.
From infinity, just go through the center of the heart, that it will take you to
Okay, to moon. Okay.
Remember that you're going to come from the other arc. You're going to go around to get you to the vertical extension of moon. Yeah, and then the vertical extension of moon, it gets expressed into horizon, and then horizon will get expressed to suspended time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then from then, what you have to do is open from the passing through nature of the sphere to get you to sun, to get you to expansion, to get you to the delicate heart. And then from the delicate heart, you create a spiral that will take you to self.
We start to self. Yeah.
The cell will return you to central crown, and the central crown will create a spiral that will bring you to the
central heart. Yeah.
Then that will be all unfold to earth, and then earth will become ground, and the ground will become foundation, from which then the release of foundation will take place.
Okay.
So it's good for you to visualize it and to choreograph it. That use it like an adventure for you. I gotta have to choreograph all those connections inside of one fluid state, and you know more or less what. So it's an adventure for you to create one motion out of all those places, plus the free releases and the definition of 0 point.
Okay.
Yeah. Any question?
When you're leading it, could you call out the triad before we do it, while we're doing it?
Well, if we do it, I don't know if it's possible, because
we're going to upper triad.
Oh, yeah.
Upper triad and the 3, and then the 3. It to me, in my mind, it leads me into the 3 movements that are that triad in my mind before we get to it, because I know it's the triad.
Crown, consciousness, and unity, you mean, like that?
And infinity, crown, isn't that crown, consciousness, infinity?
And unity.
No, your central crown, heaven, and infinity is what she's going for.
Yeah. But if you want to, if you now to the central crown, is the union of the Trinity, you know already. But if you go to heaven, it's the maximal expansion of your being, because heaven represents the entire connection to everything. And infinity becomes the unity, then, if you want to put it that way, the maximal expansion of your being, consciousness, which is heaven, and infinity, which is unity.
Well, I'm not asking for all the things that it does. I'm asking just for the triad we're in. Before we're there, we're going to, you're naming the names, right?
Yes.
From one to another. It's just, to me, for me, it's a learning thing. I'm having a hard time seeing exactly from this distance where your arms are.
Oh, I see.
If I know the triads, I know, and now we've done it enough times, I'm getting better with it, but knowing the triads that you're going to next.
Oh, I see.
I don't know, it's just, I thought maybe it would be too hard.
Wonderful, darling. Whatever you said, I think it's wonderful because it's what which you would like to facilitate in your understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Because I can't see, I can't really, in some of the thing, I couldn't see whether, I couldn't see.
yeah, absolutely. I
I
get it.
couldn't see you in horizon, for instance. I could not see.
Horizon
Well, maybe, yeah, do it 3/4 like that, yeah.
from here, from the first one, central crown, heaven, and infinity, and then moon. Does it help you to see it that way? Moon,
Yeah, moon, horizon.
horizon, and suspended diamond.
Yeah,
And then it's a spiral that's taking you into, excuse me, that's what it gets confused. From suspended diamond, you're opening to sun, which is the third triad, expansion, and then the delicate heart right here. And then it will be the fourth triad, which is self, central heart, and the delicate heart. And then you will go to the fifth triad, which is earth, crown, and foundation, which will take you directly into the release of foundation. Does it help you to see it a little bit diagonal?
absolutely. It helps me 100% to have you name it because I know the three parts of each triad in my mind. I know the three movements.
I think that it's important for you to remember that the second triad, which is actually from infinity going to moon, suspended diamond, and horizon and suspended diamond, is exactly the triad that we do it in the floor when you do it after the four directions. Remember the second movement after the four directions, go to the definition of moon, horizon, and suspended diamond. I don't know if you remember, but that is
I always thought the second triad was beauty, balance, and the moving heart.
the second. Oh, right. Okay.
Beauty,
Okay.
balance, and the center of the heart, or moving heart. Those were the three.
So
The second
you're
triad.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And the third one is moon. Or no, the fourth one is actually moon. But anyway, in this direction, it's the second triad.
Yes.
Moon and, okay.
Do
And
you understand what Nancy is saying? It's a very important, because remember that when we did the triads and unity and motion, the 5 triads, we did the first triad was central crown. The first triad was crown, consciousness, and unity. Central crown, infinity, and central crown, heaven, and infinity. Okay?
Sure.
Then the second triad, as we did it in the 5 triad, was really actually sun, balance, beauty, and self. So it was sun, horizon, and expansion, and moving heart. And then the complexity is if we do it that way, we don't get to do the entire continuity of the motion. It's more difficult. But you can do it both ways. You can do it through the definition of the 3 triads, in which will case the 4th triad will be the one that is moon, horizon, and suspended diamond. And then the 5th triad will be self, central heart, and the delicate heart. Yeah, you can do it that way. But if we do it linearly from the beginning and we go through the 5, then that will become what we just practice, going continuously from one to another. It may be a little bit complex in the beginning because that's what it creates a little bit of confusion in Nancy, because they said, well, how come now the second triad, when you do it through the continuity of the movement, is moon, horizon, and suspended diamond, when the second triad in the definition of the tree of life that we did before was really actually balance, beauty, and self, and balance, beauty, and self. Yeah, which will be the same as moon, horizon. No, which will be the same as sun, expansion, and just moving heart.
Also helpful in this presentation though, is to know that the triad represents always one sphere, one arc, and one arc. What
One
is,
diamond, one sphere.
yeah, except for, self and so forth, the last.
Yeah.
But-
So are we, Carolina, are we okay? Are we making it gets confused a little bit then, but when we do it in a continuity, that the triads are all continuous from the top down, as it was originally in the definition of the three triads, in the fourth dimension being moon, horizon, and suspended diamond, and the fifth dimension being self, central heart, in the delicate heart.
I think it would be good to make a video or do something so that it can be up on our site. So to get through this confusion right now.
Yes,
So we can do that.
absolutely. When you are just for a little bit comfortable with me for a moment, yeah.
I didn't mean to make it.
No, darling, no. Please don't think that way, because it is important to
Do it consecutively though.
say that again, darling, please.
Still do it consecutively because they're all triads. All you'd have to do is say in the beginning that moon is the fourth triad, or
Yes,
the fourth triad, and then and the rest of them are in order. It's actually it's 1, 4, 2 is the way it is, and then it's 3, right? I know that sounds
okay,
weird.
no, but let's go back, let's regroup for a moment, let's create. So the reason was that the first three triads expressed the balance of the physiological nature of the skeleton.
Right.
Yeah, you see the first triad, when we put it in the body, the first triad, the second triad, which is horizontal, and the third triad, which is the lower three centers. Then remember that in the consciousness, the fourth triad or the fourth dimension was the moment in which everything changed in the consciousness, and everything changed in our understanding of consciousness.
Well, that's true.
That was the fourth dimension, the fourth dimension.
That's right.
And then, because everything changed in the consciousness and everything changes in our entire perceptions of things, the self in us came into presence. And for the first time, we have a full recognition of being in the presence of ourselves as the self, not just only as the innocent personality of human, but as the self. So that became the way the scenario evolved and presented itself in its wholeness. So let me say it again, okay? The three triads that when we did the definition, remember the 5 triads that we did in the blogs? The first, and we said that the triads were all the natural expression of the whole field of the tree of life, of the whole field of the matrix of balance, or the natural connection to the sphere of life. We said that those things are the same. The center of the tree of the center of the matrix, and the center of the sphere of life. So we say that the free physiological center, which is the head, centralized on top of the atlas, and the crown, represented the first physiological opening that created the release of the heart, which is the second triad, which is balance, beauty, and self. And then that triad created the natural freedom and release of the third triad, which is whole nature, infinite regeneration, and foundation paradise. So those three triads, whole awareness, boundless fields, and physical reality, became that because of the fourth triad, which is actually the triad of presence, the eternal moment, which is the sphere of moon, horizon, and suspended diamond. The reason that it was very important to really stay with that, which sounds a little bit confused, because all of a sudden, the first three triads is almost like returned back into the one that is the fourth dimension, which is in here, for us to constantly remember that the fourth dimension, which inside of the linear process will be the fourth triad, yeah, but in the fourth triad, yeah, is actually the fourth dimension that brought the entire change of our entire consciousness. So it is something very important to understand and remember, because if your mind doesn't have that comprehension, it's very easy to return back into the old paradigm and really get stuck continuously coming and going back and forth and back and forth. So as we begin to understand that the three triads, physical, mind, feeling, and action became one through the fourth dimension, then everything changes, because you can have a cohesive understanding why the fourth dimension, which is actually the change and the transformation of the entire consciousness, brought the change and transformation to the fulfillment of the self, which is actually the fifth triad. Yeah, so then we can do it that way, but in the simple form of understanding the connection, when that came into being, I said the easiest way to do it is just to do it linearly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then bypass the other aspect, which was the free senses of the physiological self, merging in the fulfillment of the fourth, which is the fourth dimension, and becoming fully fulfilled in the fifth, which is the self. So let me spend a few seconds with you. So I need your help now for a moment, because maybe we're making something very complex about something that it can be very simple. So I need you to help me in that one. If you think that it's okay to leave it as it is, that you understand that you can do that all the triads from the beginning to the end in a linear form, or you can do the triads as we do it in relation to consciousness as being the first, the second, and the third, celebrated by the fourth, and fulfilled by the seventh, by the seventh dimension. So anyway, let's just spend a second. I'm sorry. It's
First, second, and third, and then fourth, and then the fifth is the self. The fifth triad is the self.
Yeah, the fifth triad is the self. Yeah, which is the seventh dimension. Yeah, but it's the self. If we leave it like that and make it simple, do you think it's make it simple for your mind? Or I need your assistant, because I need you to tell me what it will be the best way for your mind, and only you can tell me into that, to really relate to it. And if it relates in a linear form, just as the connections, and then understand the difference when it relates in relation to the dimensions, how the three triads of the dimensions came into existence through the celebration of the fourth, which is actually the fourth dimension, and became fulfilled by the fifth triad, which is the self, which is the fifth triad is the connection of the solar plexus, right? The inside of that, inside of the analogy, the linear analogy of the consciousness, the fifth triad is the fulfillment of the self. Inside of the linear definition of all the 19 connections, we just go directly from the triads in order to be in the simplicity of it, but maybe it makes them more difficult by making a difference between the ones that existed in the consciousness and the one that existed in the connections.
The secret is here, I think, is the way you tell the story. If
Yes.
you tell the story that it's not exactly how it happened, and just do and explain it.
Yes.
You can just go ahead and do it every consecutive one.
Yes.
You know, I personally was asking for the three, now the knowledge in my head for the three movements that were the arc, the sphere, and the diamond, that I knew existed in every one except the last one. It was, and I was just looking for that so I could know exactly what triad was coming up next with the three. You know,
Yes.
I couldn't see exactly sometimes from the distance here what you were doing, and you weren't naming the triads.
Yeah.
You weren't even naming it as triads. All of a
Yeah, yeah,
sudden,
absolutely. So anyway, maybe that was something that, so anyway, where are we now? Where are we in our analogy? There are two ways of doing it, right? Way to doing it through the triads of consciousness, and the way of doing it through the triads of connections. Yeah, the first triad becomes heaven, infinity, and central ground, heaven, and infinity. That's the first triad of connections. Yeah. The second triad linearly will be moon, horizon, and suspended diamond. The third triad will be sun, expansion, and moving heart. The fourth triad will be self, of connections, right? Of connections.
the second one was moon and diamond. The second triad is beauty and balance, and it's sun. It's sun.
They come to moon.
I know. Okay. Let's just relax the mind for a little bit, because we're still in the same complexity, that the connections are different than in that the dimensions. Yeah. The connections are just the connections to the movements. That's what we do in the 19 connections. The connections to the consciousness are three triads, which is, it will be a crown, consciousness of unity. And then the second triad, balance, beauty, and self. The third triad, whole nature, infinite regeneration, and foundation paradise. The fourth triad is presence, yeah, which is actually made up of three connections: moon, horizon, and suspended diamond. And the fifth triad is self, made up again of three connections: self, central heart, and delicate heart. And that will be the definitions in it. Yeah. Do you understand what I mean right now? It's still very complex, right? It's still very complex in the mind, only because of the explanation of the three senses of the self becoming fulfilled through the fourth dimension. And then the fulfillment of the fourth dimension becoming the celebration of unity of the three dimension, which is the fourth dimension, became the fulfillment of everything as the dimension of self, which is a different explanation from the perspective of consciousness. From the perspective of the connections, all the connections are linear in that sense, but at any one moment you could say, after the first one, it will be complex. You could say the first triad is heaven, infinity, and central crown, heaven, and infinity. Then I could say the fourth dimension. It became very complex if I say the fourth dimension is moon, horizon, and suspended diamond. Then the third, then I have to go back to the triads again. The second triad is moon, expansion, and moving heart. And then I have to go to the third triad, being earth, crown, and foundation. And then I have to go to self, which is the fulfillment of the three senses, as being self, central heart, and delicate heart. You can see the complexity in this one, right? A little bit. So I need you, I think we leave it for now, but I think I want you to think about it. Because what happens is that I thought that if once you understand all of them in relation to consciousness, then you can understand also as well all in the linear progression, because ultimately the linear progression, the 19 connections, is actually also the union of 0 point. It's the fulfillment of everything. They are linear only because we learned in them and we're learning to define the centers. But each of them shall contain all of them. Each of them is the unity of everything. Yes, just as each of the dimensions, crown has all the other 9 inside of crown. Consciousness has all the other 9 in it. Unity has all the other 9 plus unity. Presence is of the whole of the other 9 plus present. So each of them is an individual expression of wholeness. And it's linearly only because if we kept saying to you, everything has everything, without the linear definition of what that means, it will be impossible for your mind to comprehend it and to really use it. Yeah, so it is complex a little bit, but you must remember that it may be a little bit complex only because it's a design that is a completely new paradigm of consciousness. Completely new paradigm of consciousness from the consciousness that we have experienced for hundreds and thousands of years. So it's a different thing. So it demands a little bit more of linear comprehension and holistic comprehension at the same time. So your mind doesn't get innocently confused or innocently, where am I right now? So anyway, I think we should leave it right now for a second and let's continue with it. It's okay. I'm with you. Are you with me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're with you.
Yeah.
Would you help me to really clarify this through the time until next time that we get together, and tell me how you feel about it? If you comprehend that when you go from the perspective of consciousness, it's different than when you go from the perspective of the dimensions.
Yeah, it's like Nancy said, it's which story you're telling.
Which story you're telling, yes? And the reason
Well,
that
the same, but it's from different.
Well, yeah, and it's different when you're moving. When you're moving, it's different because, I mean, you can say balance and beauty and you can say all of this stuff, but it's just like how your body actually works going from one triad to the next is also a thing.
Yes.
And one connection to the next.
Yeah.
One
Exactly.
connection to the next.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Your presentation today, though, your presentation today
Yeah.
of the Tree of Life, you presented the triads first, the 3 senses of the self, right?
I presented the 3 senses of the cell. I think I did, right?
Yes.
That's what I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was
Came first.
that was the only way that the consciousness can understand renewal. If the consciousness doesn't understand renewal, it can never get to the new consciousness. Impossible. Yeah. Because the consciousness will try to innocently relate it to what is familiar inside of the linear process of consciousness. And the linear process of consciousness can never comprehend the renewal of the new consciousness because it's a different paradigm, a completely different paradigm. That is the reason that it's very important that in whatever form of learning, you always remember that you're making a transition when you practice or learn unity and motion, either through the movements or either through the consciousness, that you always are present, that you are in the presence of a completely new form of awareness that is different than the form of awareness that we used to have in our natural interpretation of consciousness in the past. Without that, it's impossible because the consciousness will always trying to put it back to what it knows, and therefore it will bypass the depth of the actual. It will never get to the depth of the actual gesture. The gesture will never come in. It will always be a movement. It will always be a mechanical. It will be a flow, very beautiful, but it will never be in the actual actual union with that reality, with that experience. It will be always a lovely approximation, a lovely interpretation, a graceful experience of the soul, but it will bypass the actual experience of that reality. Yes? You understand why it's so, and as a teacher, you may choose to really make it very, very simple for the teacher, for the student in the beginning, but eventually there have to be a moment that you have to start telling them, okay, now let's change the paradigm, because I need you for your mind to think from another perspective than from the mind that you were using before, from the awareness that you're using before, yeah? So that's the reason. Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
At that point, when you're talking to a student, that you bring in the fourth, at one point after bringing forth the tree of life as the three senses of the self.
Yes.
At that point that you could bring in then the fourth dimension,
Yes.
where the change came. But it's all, you can't leave the three by themselves. That's why they were the first three triads.
Yes.
So the fourth triad would be then given at the time, sequentially, actually, as everybody knows who they are in the three, then they see themselves. What happens is then came in the universe.
Yeah.
So the
self.
The fountain of life and
Yeah.
movement, actually,
Yeah.
of the three. And then the fourth came, and then it came to this, and who did it come to? The emerging self, which was the last.
The
Yeah.
fact that yeah, beautiful.
So that's a simple story, really.
Yes.
That
So it's perfect. That's wonderful. So the clarification that Nancy brings us to it, then let us to understand why we use the first three triads, and then the fourth dimension come into existence, and then the fifth triad, which is the fulfillment of self, came into existence. Yeah, that's a linear explanation of something that occurred in one instant. Yeah. Yeah, you understand. Yeah, the one instant was the moment in which the consciousness changed. It was in one moment. It wasn't a linear the getting to the instant of change was long voyage. It approximated and went backwards, approximated and went backwards, approximated and went back. And then in the moment that approximated, it became a universal connection. Actually, something that it was already predetermined, it existed, and that moment changed everything. And then that change of everything, well, it's so vast in his understanding, experience, and feeling that can only be understood by all of us linearly through the linear process. The first three triads, the fulfillment of the fourth, and then the fulfillment of the fifth. Yeah, the fulfillment of those, once it become clear, then the mind will say, okay, well, I got it all together. Then the mind says, oh, I see. But they're all simultaneous. They occur right here. It's the new consciousness. It's not a linear process of understanding something. It's the new consciousness. And then when you are in the new consciousness, when you understand that, then each connection immediately is naturally, it's going to become the gesture, because correspond to all that knowledge. So each connection becomes understood. And then you can go linear if you want to in each connection. The free, because that will becomes, is in the linear process, it becomes very easy to unite the 15 connections through the free releases will make the 18, and then the 19, which is become 0 point. 19 is 1 and 0, 10. 19, 1 and 0, 10. 1 and 0 is 0 point. Yeah. 0 without the 1, it doesn't have any meaning. 0.0, and the point is the 1. You, yourself, 0 point, the connection to all things. So everything is perfectly ordained and predetermined and perfectly expressed in the consciousness. It's just that we're going through the process now to learn something that it has to be comprehended linearly and also have to be comprehended holistically at the same time. Yeah, and then the holistic and the comprehension will switch places until eventually they become one. The whole and the one, the linear and the full field become simultaneous ourselves, and here we are in the full comprehension of the field. Yeah. So we good with this. I'm sorry that all that I wasn't expecting all this to happen today, but I need your help.
It was good, Christian, because things like this, it's good to unravel them and get to the clarity.
Yeah. And that's the reason that we need to have clarity, because otherwise I need you as a guide to you right now. My responsibility is not to give you information and let you deal with it. My responsibility is to give you information and be with you in any degree that I can, so it doesn't get interpreted into more complexity or another thing. So then I'll guide you in whatever way, like in this particular case, understand the difference between the 3 triads, the 4 and the 5th, and the linear process of the 19 connections being already inside of that whole understanding of consciousness. The 19 connections of unity and motion are already inside of the whole understanding of consciousness. Yeah. The only complexity for us that when Carolina and I began to work, and all of you in Unity and Motion years and years ago, we did work with the consciousness in some degree, but remember that it was all related more to motion. So whenever we were in the seminar, there was a moment that if I brought the consciousness, everybody went a little bit like, and certain people really gravitated. Some people became a little bit like, I don't know, and they went to sleep or they disappeared. So I always felt like in some degree, I didn't want to superimpose the consciousness, that I wanted just to remain in the movements. So the movement seemingly, even though they came all together with Carolina and I were working, seemingly it became the first thing. And then the consciousness, that it became more and more present, it became the whole field of understanding of consciousness. And then the movement came back again into another round. In this time, all the connections, all the things that we expresses as a flow, as a connection, as a dimension, as a principle, all that represented a perfect knowledge that corresponded to consciousness. So the movement is actually a natural expression of the consciousness. Yeah, it's not the other way around, that the consciousness is the natural expression of the movement. Yeah, am I saying it right, Carolina? Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. So that's the reason that we're going from this clarification between all of us, in order to be able to, well, for me, it's like, I need your help, because I need you to make sure that you're understanding what we're saying. And if it's something that is not understood, we have the reason why it was created, manifested that way. So it's not like all of a sudden, okay, this is the way it is and this is the way it is. No, the reason that this is what it is, because everything came into existence in a gradual form in order for my human mind or our human mind to make something that, even though it was forever searching for, it had no clue what really was about. It always thought, oh, it will be wonderful, it will be perfect, it will be about happiness, it will be a conscience, it will be about God, it will be about the spirit, it will be like a different dimension, and in order, but it never really was expressed or understood. There was actually the natural moment of our physical communion with life right here. That is all right here present. There is not esoteric, that is not spiritual from that perspective, that is not evolved from that perspective. It's just that it's the presentation of a new, natural, new paradigm of consciousness that we have been working for hundreds and hundreds of years, but we were interpreted inside of the mind that could not comprehend the actual experience that was grounded in its wholeness. The linear mind could not comprehend the whole. So it always romanticized the whole, and we always created a philosophical understanding. We created a spiritual path, but we were never in the actual experience of the reality itself. So now we are in the reality itself. So it's not complex, but it's a little bit startling, because the reality is what comprehends all the different interpretations that ever were created, and it's becoming free from them, because they were all approximation, searching for an experience that now have fulfilled all things. So we are in the presence of the fulfillment of all things. Yeah. So it's a little bit different. Yeah. So anyway, where are we? And let me see. We're already in the time. I'm sorry that we never got to. I wanted to go.
Perfect. It's how it unfolded was absolutely perfect.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for telling me that, because in the meantime, what I would like you to really, if it's possible, I want you to practice the connection from both ways, even if it's in confusion. Just the first triad is central crown, heaven and infinity, right? Or you can say crown, consciousness and unity, whatever you want to. Then the second triad, you can go in the way that we said in the first class, just seeing balance, beauty and self, which will be moon expansion, sun expansion and delicate heart. And the third triad, which will be for nature, infinite regeneration, foundation, paradise, will be the earth, crown and foundation. And then the fourth triad, if you want to, just say present, which is moon, horizon, and suspended diamond. And the fifth triad, which is self, central crown, central heart, and the delicate heart. You can do it that way. But then do it linearly the way we're doing right now. And the connection, just practice the connection. But because by that time, when you practice the connections, you will always be in the whole field anyway. The first three releases, central crown is the whole three dimension. Central crown is crown, consciousness, and unity. Right? Central crown is that dimension is already the other two, consciousness and unity, right? And then the second, balance, beauty, and self, there's the center of the heart, and so on and on. So you can, it seems to be complex, but in reality, it's going to help you enormously, because it will create a larger scenario of your mind that it will not be diverted by what it seems to be complex. Yeah? Because what happened with the mind, when something seems to be complex, the mind just switch off and gone. I don't blank.
Well,
No.
Christian, that's exactly why it was good for you to stay with this today.
Yeah.
To bring it around to this place where it is a place of more of a place of simplicity and clarity. So all that was needed in order to bring it in this way. And so it was a very beautiful thing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Because sometimes I have the feeling that it's much better. I feel that it's much better for you to learn into the connections and the path and the movement, and then we get to the concept. But I understand more and more that is almost postponing something and covering up, perhaps covering something that is not being completely understood yet. So it's better to reveal what is not being understood than trying to leave it for later, and then it will come back. Because that's what we do constantly in time. In our human existence, when something happens, we just switch places and go to some place, and we leave whatever gap it existed in that communion or that connection or that expression, we leave it for later, without not knowing that we created unreality.
Now what I love is, what I say for myself is, bring it on.
Bring it on, exactly.
Whatever is there that needs to come out, bring it on.
Bring it on, exactly. It's like, because it's for our freedom. It's never to make us to feel bad, or it's just to allow the mind to be able to lose all vestiges of mental illness.
Yes. Yay.
Yeah, because remember, the mind that we were coming, it was always mental illness because the mind never comprehended the whole of itself. So it was trying to run around in what it thought, what it felt, in the actual experience. So the swinging of those three words, it created an extraordinary complexity. It became a form of mental illness. Even when we think we were sane, we were crazy because we were not in the reality itself. So now mental illnesses have to disappear because all there is clarity.
Right.
The mind is clear.
Yeah.
So each of us is
I
becoming sane.
Yeah, I loved your explanation with the skeleton and the muscles and the organs also. I mean, it's really important to be able to connect with all of that, all, you know, and to know that when you're in the consciousness, the connection, the unity, that that you're transposing or engaging with all of that, and it's just extraordinary, you know, to be able to really engage wholly with yourself and not have it be. I mean, that's why the consciousness is, you know, you have to have that because otherwise you don't have any glue to really connect to yourself. So it's just, it's you know, it's not going to happen by magic. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we are becoming present with all the organs as we begin to understand that all the organs are a natural manifestation of a larger picture, and we allow now to become connected. All the organs are going to start really flourishing into the natural unity and no longer work linearly, one feeding the other. They're working, they will become simultaneous with each other. And when they become simultaneous with each other, the manifestation of that simultaneity will be natural health. Yeah, natural health. Because they're all partaking of the same system instead of having to compensate one to another forever. Yeah. So then the compensation only creates delay. Yeah. So anyway, I love you. Thank you for everything. I expected you to write. And I wanted, beautiful. And darling, I'm going to send you one last thing. I'm going to send you an email with a graphic because many years ago, 3 years ago, I created a movement or a connection and in motion to express the tree of life. And I did it for you, Lois. I decided to be for you because I felt like you always wanted to really understand more the knowledge of everything in the tree of life. So next time I'm going to give you the motions of the consciousness as it corresponds to it. It's very, very simple. But I'm going to send you a map so we don't have to spend a lot of time with it. You see the map and then we can talk about it. Yeah, it's the same as we did it with the connections and the dimensions, and now with the natural gestures of the tree of life. I love you. Have fun. Thank you for everything. Ellen, I love you. I wanted to really thank Ellen because she have guided me from the computer, and I'm getting better, and I will become better because it's a different mind that I'm going to connect to it because it's my mind. It's not just only the computer. But anyway, I love you. Have fun. Okay. Ciao,
Bye,
ciao.
everybody.